So I've got a Suzanne monkey head, it's blue, I've got an area light. I'm going to boost the strength of that area light. So with the area light selected, I can come over to here where there's a little icon of a green light bulb, and I can change things like the power. So at the moment it's set to 10 watts. If I make that 200 and see what happens, see that it's brighter. And essentially what's happening is there's some bounce light off the floor and it's filling in that area. So I think 2 lights is still not enough. I might rotate that one around, and I'm going to add in one more area light, and they've been added at the origin. I'll pop this over here, and this one by default is probably still 10 watts. So there we go, 10 watts. And I'll pop that up to 100. You don't want every light to be the same intensity. So I've got 3 lights. If we have a wee look-see at the monkey head here, the front I'd say probably needs a little bit more light, so I'll boost the strength of that light even more. You can drag it up there. Let's have another closer look. So that's probably okay, but muck about with the lights till you get it to your liking. There we go, that's a little bit better. So now I've got some lights. The next thing I want to do is check my camera is aiming in the right position. So there's my camera, and there's a little icon that I can click, and my camera is pointing at the right position. The easiest way to change the position of the camera is you open up this little menu. There's a little arrow here, and you can go to view, and if you don't want to do that, you can push the letter N for nose, and that'll pop it out. So under the view menu, we want lock camera to view, and then the outside of that becomes dotted in red. So I can now change my position and come a little bit closer. So now that I'm a bit closer and I zoomed in on my animal, I'm going to untick that. So now when I move, the camera stays where it is, but I just pan around and start moving. I'm going to look from the top. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a circle, and this is called a Bezier circle, and my camera is going to track to this Bezier circle. So how do I add again? Shift A, and I go to curve Bezier circle. Now that Bezier circle is not high enough, nor is it big enough. So if I look from the side, I want to go and bring it up to the height of my camera. So GZ up to the height of the back of the camera. You'll see the Bezier circle lines up with the back of the camera there. I'm now going to scale it so it's about the right position. So the circle lines up with the outside of my camera. There we go. And now it didn't quite from that angle, so I'll make it again scale bigger. So you'll see the circle and the camera are lined up. And I'm just looking around from different angles to check that everything is good. This menu is not needed anymore. I'm going to push N and get rid of it. Now I need to parent these, so I'm going to click the camera and then the circle, and then I'm going to go Control P and look at my choices. Now I've done it that order, and it matters to do it in that order, and I want it to follow the path. So essentially this camera is going to follow the path. If I then go to animate and push play, you'll see the camera now follows the path. If I look through the camera, it doesn't look at the moment like it's following the path. That might be because I've still got, no I don't. If we go under I think animation, there we go, different menu, you'll see that on the left, you'll see the screen, it's moving around the monkey head. My animation is going from frame 1, and it by default is stopping at 100. There are methods for adjusting that, but I'm just going to leave it at 100 frames. You do want to change the end frame to match your animation of 100 so it doesn't export far too many. There it is, camera's going around. So if I use the Eevee render engine, it'll be nice and fast, and I'll double check that I'm using the Eevee render engine. So if I click that one that kind of looks a bit like a TV or a microwave, the render engine says Eevee, it should be nice and fast. And then I need to make sure that it's saving to the right place. This little icon that's supposed to look like a printer, I need to check a few things. The output directory goes to a temporary file. It's really hard for a student on one of our Macs to find that, so I'm going to go and put that somewhere easy. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to stick it on my desktop, but I don't want you to do that. I want you to stick it where? Where do we put it? Where do we put our stuff? In the cloud, so that's what we're going to do, but for this demonstration purposes, I'm going to stick it on my desktop. I may need to create a new folder. So new folder for renders. Otherwise I'm going to get 100 pictures saved on my desktop, and that's going to be an absolute mess. I don't want that. So that's where everything's going to go to, and I'm going to go accept. Get rid of that menu. So I've changed where it's going to. That's really important to do that. The file format, I'm going to keep that at PNG, so I can export to various images or even straight to movies. Best practice is to export a whole bunch of pictures, because then you can use individual pictures, and then you don't have to worry about what happens if your computer crashes halfway through, because for very long renders it can take a heck of a long time. So that's pretty much ready to go. I'm going to come up to rendering, render, and then go render animation, and then it'll take probably a couple of seconds per frame, and so you can see up here it's on frame 3, 4, etc., and it's taking about 1.3 seconds per frame. With the this render engine, it's nice and quick, so again, a couple of minutes and it'll be done. I'm going to pause the recording. So 100 frames have now been rendered, and now I'm going to stitch it together in a movie. I clicked the wrong one, so I need Premiere Pro. So I'm going to start a brand new project. I'm going to browse to maybe my desktop and find my renders, and it can go in there. Choose. So don't leave it as untitled. Camera path demo, and then go OK. So this part down here, that's where my media gets imported to. I don't want learning, I want it assembly. So I can double click on this part, import media. Now I don't want to highlight all of those and bring them in. You might for different purposes, but what you want to do is click the first in your sequence, and this button here, options, you'd think it's hiding a whole lot of choices, but it's not. It's hiding one choice. So why they don't put that down here instead, and you tick image sequence, which means it's going to look for sequential numbers, which will go from 1, in my case, all the way up to 100. So I just have to click the first one and have image sequence, and then go import. And so now this is a 4-second long section, so if I move my mouse left and right, you can see it scrubbing through. So I can drag and drop that down into my timeline, and I can click play, and I've got a very short video. If I want to make that happen again, I can just drag it down as many times as I like. Oops, drag the correct one would be helpful. And you can make it loop and so on. To then turn that into a video, because this is a project file. So if we were to go to Finder and then go to Desktop, at the moment you'll see this says that's PR camera path, and then the file extension is .prproj. That's a project file, that is not a video. We need to turn it into a video. So we're going to export that, File, Export, Media. And I'll show you a couple of basic settings that I want you to use. Format, change QuickTime to H.264. That's a pretty standard way of exporting. Facebook and YouTube use H.264, I believe. So change that to H.264. Presets, you could leave that alone. Some of the ones that I find work really well is Vimeo. Some of those are really good. The 1080 Full HD or YouTube 1080p Full HD. Those are some pretty good presets. The output name, it takes its name from the first file you imported. So I'm going to change that. So this is going to be monkey video. And I'm going to go save. And so that's changed the name that it's going to export to. I think I needed to double check that it's going to the right place. It is. It's going to renders. Make sure you check that, because if you don't, it'll go to some really obscure place that's a folder of Premiere Pro. And then once you're done with that, just checking over, making sure that the width and height are your standard numbers. They should be okay. And then you click export. Since this is a nice quick video and my computer's reasonably fast, that's done. And I'm going to go have a look and check my video. So if I come to the desktop down here, I can now see monkeyvideo.mp4. That's a video format. If I double click that, up she pops, and this is playing in QuickTime Player. I'm going to hit play, and it goes around twice because I copied and pasted that sequence in twice. So that's all there is to it in terms of making your camera go around in Blender. I hope that helps.